Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Extra Bytes. I'm Jasdeep Roy from Exploring Light. Today, we have a wonderful speaker, a contemporary street photographer, and who has an inspiring story. I was going through his website and reading that About Me page itself, a couple of paragraphs was inspiring. People go out to
Hello
settle.
everybody, and welcome to another episode of Extra Bytes. I'm Jasdeep Roy from Exploring Light.
Okay, so people go out, sorry for this minor glitch. So people go out of India to settle down, and somebody came back to India to settle down and become a photographer. And here is Suresh Naganathan for all of you. There are esteemed panelists. The session will be moderated by Sridhar. Then we have Aniruddha. Then we have Sarthak and we have Nasser as the panelists. And I'm sure that this is going to be an interesting and probably a grueling session. Let us see, fun session or grueling session. But it is going to be quite a learning session for sure. So without further ado, I think I'll hand it over to Sridhar to take it forward from here and introduce Suresh and move ahead.
Thank you, Jasdeep. Thank you, Suresh, for joining us and all the panelists, my friends. Suresh, I don't know how to say this. Suresh and I met in 2015, as he himself has mentioned it during my talk as well. It was during a workshop in Mumbai. And ever since we are great friends and we are partners in crime as well. So the good thing about Suresh is that I've seen many photographers. He's one person who's most approachable. Like you see his followers, all the youngsters, aspiring photographers, he's always approachable. He's always available for them. That's the best part of Suresh. He's a very, very knowledgeable person in what is he doing, how he has to become, and where does he stand right now. Suresh is the only person that I know in India who's got largest photo book collection. And I stopped halfway through chasing that. You ask any photographers, anything, he's a library of his own. He can tell you any new, all these photographers are new to us, where he has all these collections and he shows one day at a time all their works and everything. All these panelists over here also are good friends of Suresh and his works. Suresh has grown a lot from where he has started. And I'm so proud that I was part of this journey in his evolution to what he is right now today. If you see Suresh's image, you can see that there is Suresh's voice in it. The quirkiness that he finds is unbelievable. Like we have shot together in many places. At one place, I remember, I think it was in Kumbh, Suresh came to me and said, "Can you just show me what you shot?" And I showed him. I said, "Okay, fine." So he took another shot from there. When I came back, I saw, wow, how can he saw that I was just sitting in front of him. You know? So that's what Suresh is all about. His images, what he's going to show, his works over here are going to be very inspiring for many who's seeing this on YouTube. And I don't want to drag it too long, and I want to leave it to Suresh. Suresh, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Shri. I hope I can live up to your introduction. Thank you all thanks Jesse for giving me the opportunity. Thanks all the panelists, friends for being here. Yeah, I mean, I hope this session is going to be fun for all of you. It was really fun for me to actually prepare it. So hopefully share my screen and then start. You guys can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so photography has been with me for the last 6 years, but before we delve into my actual pictures, I wanted to just spend the first few minutes to tell you a bit more about who I am. Jesse mentioned that I actually settled in India. So yeah, just wanted to briefly tell you guys a bit about my childhood, my life story, the little things that nudged me towards photography, and yeah, brought me where I am today. So this is me doing the most Swiss thing possible, basically eating chocolate. I grew up in Geneva, in Switzerland, born and brought up there. My dad moved there in 1969, brought my mom when we got married, and my brother and I we were born there.
Suresh, you're not audible.
Yeah, we're losing your sound. Yeah, boy.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me restart. So yeah, you guys can see my screen. I'm eating chocolate, the most Swiss thing that anybody can do. Yeah, so I was born in Switzerland. My brother and I were born in Switzerland to a very normal Tambram family. Yeah, I grew up there, did the things that kids do, play around, study. I mean, if you had asked this kid what he wanted to do when he grew up, he would have given you the most nerdy answer, left brain answer possible. I wanted to become a mathematician. I loved science, I loved numbers, nothing to do with art per se. But while I was this very normal kid, my parents, on the other hand, were pretty unusual in terms of what you consider, I would say, normal Indians. And they actually had a very huge influence to nudge me towards photography. Just wanted to delve a little bit into that with the next few slides. What I call my 4 pillars. So my 2 parents and the other 2 things I described. This is one of my oldest memories ever. There's one memory that I remember quite vividly. One of the first ones is this painting, and my dad actually spending his evenings, his weekends, his nights painting. My dad actually studied art in school in India. Tried to do something with it, but yeah, unfortunately, life, especially in India in the 1950s and 60s, was not really conducive to earn a living through art. So he had to do, take another course in life, and art was still a huge part of it, but not as a means to earn money. So, but I grew up seeing him painting whenever possible. Whenever he had free time, he would spend time painting different art forms, full of color, quite abstract stuff. He would do strange, paintings like the one on the left. He would do silhouettes. He would do a lot of things, and that, I think, really entered my psyche at a very young age. I couldn't, draw a straight line to save my life, but somehow I think the colors, all these elements, they're part of who I am, and they kind of eventually, is something that you'll see in my pictures later on. So really, he was one huge source of inspiration, and I would say the first pillar on which my photography was rests. The second one is my mom. My mom was not an artist. You can see her in the silhouette here. But she gave me wanderlust. Growing up, we didn't have like we couldn't afford to go on holidays. Every time I had my brother and I had vacations, so we would spend a lot of time at home doing stuff that regular kids do, especially the summer holidays. Kind of. My mom always found ways to keep us engaged. And one of the things I remember very clearly that she used to do was she would take us, just hop on a bus. Geneva had a huge, huge bus network, and she would just, take any random bus. So we would decide, we would look at the letter of the bus, it would be bus A, would go somewhere. And we're like, okay, let's go, take the bus. We would go to the last stop, spend time, look around, walk, and then a couple of hours later, take the bus back home. Just kind of, basically what street photographers like all of us in this panel do. We just aim, roam aimlessly and try to capture pictures. I was kind of doing that already as a kid, but without a camera. So, despite the fact that my parents, gave me all these things, all these elements that now are very important to me, in my childhood, I never did any such things. I was, studying. I liked my studies. I couldn't draw or paint or do any art forms. I tried my hand at all musical instruments possible. I was pretty bad at all of them. But yeah, photography was something I used to do even when I was a little bit when I was a kid. I used to be like the few times we would go on a summer vacation. My dad would allow me to take the camera, take the family pictures, and something I enjoyed doing. Get it straight, get the monuments behind. That was kind of good enough. I enjoyed doing that, but yeah, otherwise I didn't pursue any form of art until much later. So yeah, completed high school, completed college, started a job. But one thing I wanted once I started earning money was kind of start traveling. So I would travel a little bit, backpack. My job was, I was lucky enough to have a job which allowed me to travel a lot with work. But, it's not like you have time to visit anything. So it used to be like, okay, I would travel Monday to Friday, sleep in hotels, have what I thought at that time a glamorous lifestyle. But something was it's kind of missing. I needed something more from my travels. And I don't know, somehow this led me to this third pillar, this book. I know this book changed my life in ways. The story of this book, this is a book by a Swiss author called Geneva, from the town where I lived, who in the 1950s completed college. I think he had a job that he quit very early. Took this car and started traveling with his friends. Drove all the way from Geneva all the way to India. I think it took a couple of years to drive across. Went to Iran, all kinds of very crazy places. I don't think we can do anymore, but somehow this book changed my life. The crazy part of this story is that actually I found this book in the train. I was going to work one day, and in my train compartment, and next to me was this book. Nobody around. Somehow this book was just waiting for me yeah, I mean, I was just waiting for it. So I read it and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to travel. I don't want to stay in Geneva. I don't want to travel just 1 week here, 1 week there for work. I want to, I don't know. I want to see other places in the world. So well, I told my job, actually. I told my job, luckily, I mean, my company had many offices across the world. So I asked them, yeah, I mean, is there a chance I can maybe, I don't know, move to Asia with the company? And somehow, I mean, it worked. They transferred me to Singapore at first, and from there, they were like, you look Indian. Yeah. So they sent me to India to work on a project. And that's 2008, moved to India. Still no camera in hand. I mean, when I moved here, I bought a camera, but to start kind of taking pictures of whatever temples I would see, or a little bit to document my travels. Nothing serious. I moved to Mumbai, and that's where I met the fourth pillar of my story, from where things, the prologue of my story. You'll see more of her in the later slides, but basically this is my partner. You can see her shadow twice. Chiru. I met her very early when I moved to India, and we've been together 12 years. And she's one of the reasons why I stayed here for so long. I was supposed to be here for a year. 1 year turned into 12, and yeah, still don't foresee going back to Switzerland anytime soon. What happened is that I started taking pictures slowly. I started realizing that more than the flowers and the landscapes, what kind of interested me were people. I didn't know anything about shooting people, portraits. I tried my hand at it. I was really bad. So, but somehow, I was taking really, really bad shots for years. But somehow I don't know what she saw, but she kept pushing me. She kept saying, like, there's something here. Just keep trying. I think, you have a connection with photography. And yeah, that kind of gave me confidence to pursue. So long story short, these are the people and the book that brought me to start photography. But okay, I want to take pictures of people. Where do I start? I have no idea about anything. Didn't really do any research. Didn't type Google. I didn't know the term street photography. Where do I start? Where do you start in these things? I don't know how to compose a picture. I didn't take any formal classes. I don't know. But somehow, early 2014, late 2013, I don't remember when, I found a talk on Facebook. It was something promoted, and it was like, okay, there's a talk in South Mumbai. Okay, talk about photography. Let me go check it out. And that changed. That kind of changed my vision on photography. If you will. I saw these pictures by Cartier-Bresson, by Bruce Gilden, Alex Webb. It's like, how is this possible? How can people take pictures like this? I just couldn't understand. I couldn't understand. How is it possible? But somehow it hit me in the gut. It was like, this is what I've been looking for. These are the pictures that I want to take. I don't know how I'm going to take them, but I want to at least figure out, if there are ways to learn on how to take it. So yeah, started looking around, trying to see. Facebook was at that time quite the place to look at pictures. Less so today, but I stumbled upon this group called APF. I think pretty much everybody here knows this group. And they were actively promoting this genre that I had discovered completely by accident. And so I started posting in that group, and then I saw that they were conducting their first workshop somewhere around May 2014 in Bangkok. I thought to myself, okay, why not have a nice weekend in Bangkok and learn a little bit about photography? I did that, and it literally changed my life. To me, this was 3 days where I don't know. I didn't still know how to take pictures, as you can see in these shots that I'm sharing, but somehow I had a sense of direction. I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I knew they gave me the tools to how to start, and then it was really up to me to figure out how to take pictures. And mostly it was fails. Something would connect, but the pictures were either loose or they were not well composed. There was no moment. And until the moment where it clicks, one shot, and for me, this is a very, very important shot. This was the first shot where kind of things clicked with me. It was both blessing and a curse. I'll come to the curse part in just a minute. But for me, it was like, I remember taking this shot. I was, I think, in Abu Dhabi airport, transiting between two flights. I was traveling back to Geneva to see my mom and my brother. Just turned around. I was queuing. Just turned around, saw this guy, saw this scene, took it, and I just felt something inside it. It hit me. It was the same hit that I had felt when I saw the pictures from the masters. I don't know why. I still don't know why. I mean, it's a nice picture. It raises a lot of questions, but that feeling was what I was looking for. And somehow I was like, okay, this is the feeling that I want to keep chasing. I want to take more pictures like this. I want to figure out how to do. So yeah, a huge blessing because it kind of pointed me in the direction and told me that yes, you can take pictures, but also a huge curse because after I took this shot, it took me another 4 months until I got the next shot that was good. I mean, that I loved. Those 4 months were absolute hell for me. You go out, you take pictures. You come back, every single shot is bad. They don't connect, nothing works, it's cliche, you don't see anything. Yeah, I mean, I was almost on the verge of kind of, saying, you know what, maybe forget it, maybe this was just luck. I don't think I'll get any shots like this. Just leave it. But somehow, it's like, okay, it was end of the year. The Warner brothers were having another workshop in Jodhpur. It's like, okay, let me go there, check it out. When their same story didn't take a single good shot in the workshop, but I talked to them, told them, I'm not able, I don't see anything. I'm not able to get anything. What do I do? And maybe I should stop. One thing that they really told me, and then I'll always be grateful for, is that it only takes one shot. Every one of us go through this phase where you're not gonna get a single good frame. Sometimes it lasts 3 weeks, sometimes it lasts 3 months. It's okay. It's part of the game. But you only need that one shot to get you back on track. That's literally what happened. I mean, I think like 3 days after I came back from this workshop, I got this one shot, and this again triggered something in me, and I knew that, okay, this is it. This is the feeling I've been chasing. I'm seeing things. This is what I want to shoot, and I never look back. From then, first of all, I kind of, relaxed a little more. It's not about the results. The results will come, but just go shoot, enjoy. enjoy taking pictures. But then also the results started coming a little more regularly. Like instead of 4 months, it would be after 3 weeks, I'd get another shot and something strange is happening, something, somehow things are connecting. I'm starting to see colors, I'm starting to see shadows. Some of the ideas that I have later in my later pictures start forming. I still used to shoot black and white. It's the only black and white picture in my whole presentation. But somehow these quirky moments started coming. The little illusions, the little things that I still enjoy shooting. The seeds were planting. Started getting moments that I was very happy with. Starting to get slightly more invisible. I started going closer. All these things that I was so afraid for years, they started slowly clicking. I'll come to that. I mean, this is part of a series that I started. The first shot I got there, which was okay, there's something new. So yeah. So after this, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. These were the pictures I wanted to take. I started, like Sri said, I started buying photo books. There's no pictures of my library, but yeah, I have quite a lot of them. I started looking at pictures. I became obsessed. I became a compulsive shooter, a compulsive photography watcher, and whether it's documentaries, whether it's contemporary, whether it's works from masters, you name it, I would just absorb. I wanted to look at pictures. I wanted to take shots. That's all that mattered to me. And obviously the added benefit of going out on the street, getting some sunlight, walking, all these things were there. So yeah, that's my journey until 2015. After 2015, I started taking. I was like, okay, beyond just taking random shots, what else can I bring in? So, are there any themes that that were?
Suresh, sorry to interrupt you. Can we ask questions in between? Or?
Oh yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Suresh. Yep. I want to know, like any of us, when we are in the earlier periods of our practice and growing period of any art, we have been influenced by, as you said, a lot of masters and their works. Have you tried to copy or imitate any of these works in your journey, or these were the moments that these quirky moments were coming as quite natural for you? Or I just want to know what is the process you've been through.
I mean, I wouldn't say I would copy a shot, like let's say you get a shot, you see a shot from the master. It's impossible to copy it 100%, right? Simply because we deal with elements which are completely outside our control. Street is all about candid moments, so you can't really copy a shot exactly as it is. But then themes, visual languages, all these things for sure. I mean, they inspired me. The shooting layers, juxtapositions. I mean, all these things, all the tricks from the books that you also mentioned in your talk. I mean, I tried them all. But somehow, one, you don't really necessarily get the same satisfaction when you take shots which are very similar. I mean, what's the joy if somebody tells you, oh man, this shot looks exactly like Alex Webb's shot? Okay, that's not why I want to shoot. I want people to say, oh man, this really looks like a Suresh shot. So I would take these elements. I wouldn't necessarily copy them, but then they're all in the back of your mind. So compositional rules, subject matters, all these things kind of they kind of play a huge role in your photography. But the same way, other things also do that. The movies you watch, the book you read, you know, the people you meet, your life story. I mean, all these elements, they conspire to go into your pictures as well. So somehow, I don't know, organically, my eye started going towards these quirky moments. They just started connecting like this. It's a practice, for sure. I'm not showing any of those pictures, but I have shots where I do the cliche things or the things that have been done to that. It's all part of the game. It's how you learn.
Thank you. Does any of the panelists want to ask any questions, or shall we move?
I have a question. Mind you, it's coming from somebody who, for whom street photography is shooting street virtually without any people. So please pardon me for if it sounds immature. Now, you said something very interesting that suddenly, initially, you started shooting, and then your hit ratio started improving in a way. So you were suddenly getting more pictures, and suddenly you were seeing things and happening in front of you. So how does it actually work? So this probably question is probably for many people who will be watching this session and trying to probably seek inspiration and try their hand at street photography. When you say that your success rate had increased and improved, and while you are on the field, what do you mean by saying that? Do you pre-visualize the scene happening and then it happens? Or earlier you were pre-visualizing, but that would not happen and you left that place disappointed? Or you suddenly see things coming together and you see a frame happening and you are quick in clicking that? What is it, or something else?
It's probably a mix of both. So somehow you start pre-visualizing scenes happening. So if I go back, this scene here, somehow earlier I would not have seen it, but here it literally jumped at me. So you start seeing things that that connect with you, and you think, okay, there's a shot here, and then you work the scene, take more shots until you get all the elements in the right position. So that's one way that things started happening. Another way is that, I don't know, somehow things started happening in front of me, and I was able to take them. This kid, for example, walking right in front, this woman doing the thing. I wouldn't have been quick enough just a year or 6 months prior to this to take this shot. But somehow at that moment, I started, started connecting more. You can start smelling that things are going to happen, that you start to develop an instinct that there might be a shot here. And that comes from, the more shots you take, the more pictures you look at, the more you obsess about it, the more it starts happening. So while maybe 2014, I would not even be able to smell it, slowly here I started smelling it. It's like, okay, maybe there's a wall here, or it's a color, or there's a busy scene, but I can start feeling that somehow all these characters are going to merge into a kind of an harmonious frame. So you start seeing these things. And then, and obviously you have to click at the right moment. It comes with practice, I feel.
Yeah, I understand that. Probably there's a small extension to that. You also mentioned that you started moving closer.
Yeah.
And so is going closer to at least one particular element in your entire frame or subject in your entire frame, is it really important to create juxtaposition or create the layers, or you can do that staying far off also?
You can, you can do that being far off as well. But for me, more than the compositional angles of juxtaposition or layers, it always works better if you have somebody in the foreground, kind of close to you. Then you compose your shot to have somebody in the middle, the background, and work so that there's no overlaps. I mean, those are all the technical aspect. For me, more than the technical element, what I needed was more intimacy, for want of a better word. To me, the closer I got, the more feeling I would get from the subjects. There's a different viewing experience for me when I look at a picture where you can see people. When you're close to people, you kind of can hear their thoughts. If you're like kind of far away and you shoot them from afar, that feeling of intimacy is not there. So I was trying to look at that into my own pictures, kind of get elements of intimacy into my shots, and that's how I was getting closer. And then there's also an element of I wanted to be a ninja, kind of. You take like go close, take a shot, move out before the person even notices. That's something I enjoyed, feeling that like I was a ninja. So that's something that I was also enjoying. So that there's that element of performance, if you will, that I was also enjoying while going closer.
Thank you. That's I think there's a lot of insight into that answer.
I have a question, Suresh. You were saying that when you smell things, that something might happen, so you normally hang around there for things to fall in place and get your shot, or you move on, and you spend a lot of time there?
Yeah, it depends. I have had cases where I would spend half an hour, 45 minutes until something will click. Sometimes, I don't think I put it here, but there was I'll give you an example with some of my later shots, just to tell you like how long it took me to
get that shot.
Get the shot. But I have a tendency to really work the scene. If I feel that there's something there, I'm going to hang around. I'll take 20, 30, 40, 50 shots, 100 shots. She and I have similar experiences in doing that. My family never left me, but there will probably be a side. She's family has disappeared sometimes when he takes an hour to get a shot. But no, you need to work the scene until that little itch gets scratched. That's normally what I do.
There is we also supposed to have another panelist, but she could not join because of inconsistent internet in Kolkata, Jayati Saha. So, but she's there on YouTube. So she's asked one question, very, very nice question. That, what are your thoughts on creating a signature for yourself? Since there's a lot of inspiration that a photographer absorbs from works of masters and other photographers.
I mean, I think that eventually, if you stick to the art form for a long time, a signature will come. It's just that don't rush into getting a signature. Try your hand at everything. Shoot different styles, shoot different elements. But over a period of time, after a few years, and really I stress the thing, the social media, all our modern tools of communication really speed things up a lot. So we have somehow an urgency to create a style or to have that signature ASAP. It doesn't matter. Take the time to get your basics solid. Take your time to take your shot, shoot everything. Eventually, over a period of time, the style, the signature, that element that is you will come out in the pictures, and you get inspired. You copy, for want of a better word, by other people. But then eventually you're going to add more and more of your own elements into the pictures. The compositional rules, all these things become completely automatic. And that's when you put Jayati in your pictures, you put Sriranj in his shots, I put myself in my shots. And that's when the style comes. But it doesn't come overnight, I feel. It takes time. It takes many years.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer because...
let me add to that. Since the question's been raised here before I asked it then. So do you think that your voices has come into your pictures? I mean, I can feel it, but to you as a person, can you feel it, that it is there? Like, or are you still in the process of finding yourself?
I mean, I'm always in the process of finding myself. You know, it's like what you were saying, you know, like we keep reinventing ourselves. You know? There are elements in my pictures that I know are me. My use of color, the way I use layers, all these things. But the subject matters keep changing, keep evolving, keep getting refined. You know, some of the earlier themes that I've worked on since 2014, they are getting more. You're kind of refining them until they become like self-contained body of work. So I believe there are some elements that kind of distinguish me in terms of the signature, but I try also to reinvent myself, to try different things. The use of Flash is something that I've been doing for the last 1 year. Try, and I will have to try once the lockdown is over, to, instead of going close, stay a bit far, because I don't think we can go close. So, you know, those are all the things that I have to play around with later on. So yeah, there are elements for sure that are me, but it keeps evolving, I feel.
Thank you. So shall we move on?
Yeah.
Please, Suresh.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I said, elements started falling in place, started getting shots. It was all individual shots, but then I wanted to do something more with my photography. So somehow this little park jumped to being my first quote-unquote project that I worked on. It's a small municipal park that I worked, like literally 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes from home. And in that little park, there's a little playground, and people were doing some strange things there. And somehow this place became, I used to go there, so I was running at that time, so we were doing marathon training and all that. But during the off training days, I used to go there just to take pictures of people. I'm just going to share a few shots of this place.
This is fabulous. This is this particular image is actually for me it's an example of how you need to see rather than and frame out of something which is very, very ordinary and mundane.
Thank you.
Wow. I have a question here, very something, and I think I will link it to one question being asked by Monica on YouTube, and I think that is comes relevant here, at least to me, is that, let's say, before I ask the question, let me give the thought that I have, that when we start photography, so we always have this bulky DSLRs and lenses which really stand out. The moment you hang them on your neck, people will notice it. And the moment you bring them to your face to click an image, most certainly somebody is going to going to look at you and will get conscious of the fact that the image is getting clicked. Now, which camera did you start with initially, and how did you manage? If it was a DSLR, how did you manage to still stay hidden while creating these images? And what is the camera that you have started using now? Has there been any change or evolution in that? Because I think that camera is very important. That will either help you hide, or help you, or maybe show you to the entire world without you wanting to do that.
Oh, absolutely, and I think to emphasize what you're saying, Indians in general, especially in public settings, they are very camera conscious. So the moment they see somebody with a camera, they will notice it. I don't know. It's like they have a radar. They see a camera, they'll notice. Maybe they'll ask you, or they'll pose for you. So I actually started with a Canon, I think I had a 6D. But when I went to the workshop, the APF workshop in Bangkok, I also stole my partner's camera. She had a. So she didn't like these bulky cameras, so we had purchased a Fuji X100S for her, which she very reluctantly lent me at that time, and then that became my go-to camera from the moment. And then she very graciously gifted it to me. That became my go-to camera from the moment I really discovered street, and it changed. Yeah, so in this case, yeah, really gear matters in the sense that these small cameras make you much more invisible. One, because I don't know if other people in this panel can relate to this, but when you're with a DSLR, people are a little more suspicious of you. They think that you're a photojournalist, or somebody from the press, and they usually don't feel very comfortable with you taking their pictures. On the other hand, when you have a small Fuji, a mirrorless camera, they think you're a tourist. And somehow I played with this, throughout the years. Obviously, the fact that I moved from Switzerland to India made me, I look Indian, but in many aspects I have a very strong Swiss streak. They kind of sense that I'm not really an Indian. On top of that, my Hindi is atrocious, so usually I play around a lot with that, So when I walk around, even if they see me, I'll go close. It's like, where are you from? Then I tell them either I'm from South India or I'm from Switzerland, and they look at me. They know that the way I'm dressed, I'm a tourist. So then it's okay for me to a strong, big, bulky DSLR with.
I think so. You also find mobile phones to be a lot more.
I got so used to the freedom that the control that a Fuji camera gives you, and the quality of the color, the way the Fuji images are by default. It just became second nature. Okay. I've been with these small 100 X100 series camera for the last 5 years. It just 6 years. They just work for me.
Thank you.
So, for me, the series was very important in just to complete what I want to say on the series. The series was very important for me because it was a very small place. I mean, if you look at it's like it's 10 meters one way. It's one circle of 10 meters of diameter. That's it. And I forced myself to go there and try to get shots very regularly and create a series. So that really trained my eye in a way. Work on figuring out ways to compose, work out how to get subjects, how to kind of be invisible in such a small area. It was really, really a series that I enjoyed doing. Never really could complete it because At some point, they just prohibited cameras. I mean, they didn't allow cameras there anymore, so it's a bit of a pity. I could never really finish it. I'll try once the COVID is over to maybe go back and sneak a couple of more shots, because I still want to finish it. But really, really important series for me. Any questions before I move on?
So is this park close to your house, Suresh?
Yeah, it's 10 minutes.
Okay.
I think there is a so I'm getting an idea that if this thing opens up, then probably park is going to be one learning playground.
Yeah,
that's the best thing and the easiest thing somebody can do.
Definitely. All right, so let me move on. So while this thing on photography was happening on one side, my professional life was carrying on. I used to travel a hell of a lot, weeks on end. I think it was 2013 or 2014. I took like 50 flights. I used to manage projects for my company across different places in Asia, and was really getting a lot, really too much. In parallel, that book kept playing in my head. It was like, hey, you have forgotten me. You need to do the things that they did in the book. So 2015, and this is where Chilu, my partner, really supported me. She said, no, just quit your job. You want to travel, just quit your job. What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen? I'm sure you want to come back, you can come back or find something else. At that time, I didn't have the courage to quit my job, but her push really made me reflect on what to do. And I went to my boss that same morning. I said, hey, let me take a sabbatical. I want 6 months break. And here, really shout out to my manager, Indian manager. He said, okay, yeah, let's work it out. And took 9 months, but between him, it's a Swiss company, so they've had previous experiences like that. I was the first one in India, but they had previous experiences on how to handle such situations, so it really worked in my favor. And the second half of 2016, I was supposed to be off for 6 months, and really, this was a solo trip. Took a one-way flight to Cambodia, and I was trying to make my way back to India. So one camera, backpack, 5-6 memory cards, a couple of hard drives. That was it. And I was just traveling completely randomly, no plan, nothing. It was the most freeing time that I've had. And the beauty is that this is where street photography is so beautiful, is that you don't need to think about where to shoot. You can shoot everywhere. And that's shot in Cambodia, I shot in Thailand, Myanmar, any market, any street, anywhere where there were pictures waiting for me. It's a lovely time. And the beauty is that I had just a 6 month sabbatical, so my job was still secure after.
So Suresh, when you traveled here, your objective was to travel or to take pictures?
Kind of both. So it was, the travel experience was very important. But taking pictures was just as important. So for me, it was kind of, I was not like necessarily doing research on what were the best places to take, street shots of a particular place. But it was more like, okay, I'm gonna take street shots wherever I go. I came back. I think I took 10.
So was there a time that like the photography thing becomes very contagious, that we're always trying to look for images when we are anywhere out on the street? in that process, we tend to forget to experience that place, and has this happened to you in that?
Oh yeah, it happens to me. It happens to me, and you need to really consciously make a shift, saying like, you know what, I'm not going to take this shot. I'm in this, world famous touristic place. It could be a temple constructed 1,000 years ago, or it could be this beautiful, mountain. Take a break, and it requires you to really force yourself to say, you know what, don't look at the light, don't look at the people, focus on what is in front of you. Not always easy, but yeah, I consciously tried as much as possible to do that.
Please carry.
Well, unfortunately, the experience, this beautiful time ended rather abruptly and badly. I had a pretty bad cycling accident in Myanmar. Broke my ankle in 2 places, and I had to spend the last 3 months of my sabbatical back at home. Had a double surgery, was bedridden for 8 weeks. I could only go, get up for 1 hour a day and spend the rest of the 23 hours, lying on my back. That's truly a horrendous time, and you can imagine being on the move all the time, taking pictures every day, to being bedridden, not being able to take pictures. It was quite depressing at first. But after, I don't know, a few weeks, I was like, okay, I can't walk around, but I still have a place, my home, where I can, and I have a camera. Why don't I start taking pictures? That's what I started doing. Started taking the first pictures of at my home. Just calmer images, play of light, family. Lights, it's around Christmas time. Started paying attention to the light. Started paying attention to where the shadows would come. And that helps me in a very deep way. Kind of made me really slow down and think that you don't need to go anywhere to take street shots. Street shots are everywhere. You can take them at home. You can take them at the dentist. You can take them anywhere and everywhere. So somehow, wherever they would allow me to have a camera, I started carrying it with me everywhere. Started taking shots across, anywhere and everywhere. Always pay attention to the light. So now, it's become automatic. There's always a part of me that scans a bit my surroundings, see if there's anything that can come up, shaft of light, play of shadow, some reflection, something that can just create that little magic that I would want in a street shot.
So this is a cliche question for the benefit of viewers. Like we all know, we tend to ask this, but each individual has a different views to it. Whereas there's a common thing we all agree upon. What according to you is street photography? Like, what do you tend to look for? How do you distinguish that it is a street shot for you? If you can explain to us.
To me, a street shot is...
there's one question on YouTube as well. So I think it is connected. So let me ask that as well so that he can answer. So Rangan Bhattacharya is asking that what makes a good street photograph? So probably I think
you can answer that in 2 sections.
Okay. Let me start with for me, street photography is just life photography. It's about documenting a slice of life, a sense, giving it a sense of time or a place. It can be pictures of your home, it can be pictures of your neighborhood, it can be pictures of the city where you are. It can be anything and everything. The only thing for me that is important, I mean, the only two things that are important for me is that usually I tend to look for some element of surprise or some element of of quirkiness. I want to put that a word in my pictures. That's one. And two, I don't pose my shots. These are all candid moments that I pluck from life. So yeah, that's really what I'm looking at, and that's what street photography is for me. It's basically you're documenting life. You're not documenting a narrow project the way a documentary photographer would do. You're documenting a time and a place. And that time and a place can be you and your family, or it can be the city that you live in. And what makes a good street photograph is something that should arrest me. There's no formula on what is a good street photo. It's not like if you put A plus B, you get C, and that's it. That's a good street shot. It can be a very candid moment. It can be an emotion. It can be a composition. It can be something joyous. It can be an illusion. It can be a juxtaposition. There's no right or wrong formula. It's just that it has to be authentic, not gimmicky, and it should be it should feel real. And it should arrest you.
Thank you. Panelists, anybody wants to ask questions before we move to the next project?
We could move.
Okay, please.
Great. So yeah, so all these things happened, and I obviously recovered. Started walking again. In parallel, I joined back work, and joined back work in Mumbai. But during my absence, they kind of unilaterally decided that I had to go to Singapore for a project. So here I was. It was literally, I came back to office and I was like, okay, when can you travel to Singapore? Obviously, it took me a month and a half to fully recover before I could go, but I spent the majority of 2017 in Singapore, working 60 hours a week and being all alone in a serviced apartment over the weekend. So this is again one of these situations where photography literally saved my sanity. I didn't know I had, my colleagues were friends, but my family was in India. I used to go back there for a weekend every 3 weeks. And the rest of the time I was working in Singapore. So this is really, I can say, photography saved my sanity. Monday to Friday I would work. Saturday I would wake up, get out early morning, shoot until evening, come back home, transfer the pictures, empty my memory card, restart on Sunday. And somehow again, these are, for me, something also I've been telling some of my students, you need to shoot. The only way to improve, it's like any craft, any art. Want to learn how to play the guitar, you need to play the guitar almost every day. You need to be obsessing about it so that it becomes automatic. That's really what I did with photography, and being in that environment where I was alone most of the time really helped me. Here are some shots I took in Singapore.
So these shots were taken while you had this during your break, or when you finished your office on your way back, or on particular days, holidays?
Yeah, it would be a bit of both. A lot over the weekends. This was right outside my office, I mean, where I was working. So while I was waiting for the cab, so I had my camera with me at all times. Okay. Yeah. I would meet the customer with my camera. They make fun of me. I was like, I need to take pictures. You never know. I would, on my way to work, on my way back home.
This is one of my favorite images.
Doing my, walks.
Suresh, can you slow down, please?
Sorry.
Because it's just trying to absorb the shock. We're trying to ask what is going on in each image.
What's going on here?
So I think this is the most important aspect in any street photography. More questions we need to ask.
So the door seems to be closed.
Yeah, exactly.
Hand seems to still be coming out. So what's happening here?
And yet it's not broken. The hand.
It's not broken. There's no.
If I tell you the secret, then it's no fun. It's better that you keep asking the questions. Sorry, I needed to just go back. So Sarthak, just to go back to the question that you had asked earlier.
About waiting at the spot to smell a story. Yeah. So
here is really an example of such shot. I mean, I saw this sandcastle, the toys, and I smelled that there was something here. But I took, I don't know, 50, 60 shots before all the elements started, falling into place. When the kids are almost the same size as the toys, and you have this kind of Gulliver's Travel type of story. So yeah, for me, I started sensing, smelling these things a bit more. Here's another one. All these shots. I mean, I really worked the scene. Each one of them, I worked the scene until I got the right elements in the right place. And yeah, that's really how I take these shots. Yeah. So yeah, little elements of surprise. I mean, somehow these things you start seeing them, they start connecting, so you know more or less where to position yourself. You know more or less, okay, maybe there's a hand gesture that's gonna come, and then you wait and you shoot. Any questions?
Panelist.
Looking at a couple of last two images, I believe this one and the previous one, and yeah, I think now it is very evident that both the images have this. They stand out probably because of your respective position where you were standing with respect to the subject or the action that was happening. Yep. And did you see this from a different angle, or in any other image that we are not seeing? That does it happen that you see it happening and then you realize that you are probably at the wrong angle, and once you shift the angle you will probably get the right picture? Does it happen? Do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this shot, I mean, maybe I'll give you tell you what happened in this shot. So I was walking, and this van passed next to me. I saw the hand, I saw the van, and I was like, there's something here. So I started chasing the van. Luckily, these were like kind of narrow roads, and the van had to stop. So here I came closer. I saw that the angle was not was not right for the type of picture I wanted to take. So I took a couple of steps back, and then I saw that there was another man with this leg coming that kind of balanced the shot nicely. So I positioned myself in such a way that then I took the shot that kind of created the illusion I was going for. So yeah, I mean, you try different angles here. I'm sure I don't remember. I don't have the I don't remember the scene exactly, but yes, I'm sure I was probably walking in front of them. Then I saw something, then I walked to the side. I probably took a couple of shots. Then I went behind them and I tried different angles until I got different heights, different things until I got the shot. So yeah, you see something, you feel that there's something, but it's not quite right. So you try different things until you get it.
Great. There is one question. There are a couple of questions. I'll come to one question a little late, and but one question from Monica is that how important is editing in your pictures? And I think her this question is coming from the fact that she is realizing that the scene is too busy. Most of his scenes are too busy with too many people in that, and everybody seems to be in sharp focus. So probably it's got to do with your choice of focal length and aperture, and also can you throw some more light on that?
Sure. So very early, I kind of realized that that's something that I enjoy doing a lot, shooting multiple subjects and getting them all kind of in focus. I mean, Vineet Vora was a major inspiration, Alex Webb. So these were shots that really made me happy. So yeah, tons of trial and error until you get it right. But what I figured out is that having very deep depth of field, so shooting f11, f16, and pre-focusing at let's say 3 to 4 feet, 1 to 1.2 meters, usually allowed me to get a lot of elements fairly sharp in focus. So I used to do a lot of zone focusing, miss tremendous number of shots because my focus was all, because I couldn't gauge the distance properly. And either my subject is completely out of focus or the background is out of focus. So it's tons of trial and error until you kind of know that the subject that I want the most in focus is at this distance from me, and by pre-focusing at XY distance, I'll get him and the other elements in front and behind in focus as well. So yeah, that's how I did it. That's how I'm doing it.
Thank you.
I have a question, Suresh. Street photography, as we know, it's about 99% failure. It's just the 1% that matters. Sometimes it clicks, we get a picture. How do you select an image? What is the percentage of a perfect image for you? Because when we are on the streets, there are a lot of distractions, there are a lot of chaos. So to get a perfect image is impossible. So what is the percentage of okay, that image should be okay for you to select?
So my ratio of good versus bad is closer to 1 to 500 or 1 to 1,000. 500 and 1,000. I get one shot for that many. I miss so many shots, and I keep them all. So when I have to go back to look at past work to see if I've missed something, you go through hundreds of bad shots until you get a good one. It's a horrible experience. And kind of also humbling. It makes you feel that no, actually we're not great photographers. It's just that you shoot a lot, you see a lot, and then over a period of time, you know which shot works. I mean, how to position yourself, but you still miss it. And the more elements in your shots, the more people in your shots. I mean, take this shot, for example. I think I took 200-300 pictures here until I had some the right people in the right position, this, hand gestures that work, all the reflections in the right way. How do you choose? That's another another ordeal, really, because the more you shoot, the more shots you're gonna get, and the more shots you're gonna get, the more shots you have to go through, and sometimes it's a minute difference. I don't. I normally shoot only single shutter, so you're not gonna get like multiple machine gun type of shots, but still I shoot a lot. So sometimes there'll be minute differences that I'll get between shots, so I have to really decide. And that sometimes I'll just if I see a scene and I have like 3-4 shots that I kind of like, I will let them leave them for some other time, and then relook at them after a month or two. And usually there's always one, max two that pop out that are much stronger than the rest.
Thank you. Any lucky spot which gets you lots of hits?
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously these complex frames, luck is a huge part. Luck is always a part of street photography. That's what makes it also very interesting to me, because you can't control. If you have 1 or 2 subjects, you can kind of control your position. You can control. You can kind of identify what they're going to do, position yourself, anticipate, and do. When you have 5, 6, 7, 8, then yeah, luck plays a huge part. But there's also a huge part of you starting to anticipate where. I mean, you kind of favor your own luck by positioning yourself in the right place, by kind of anticipating that the things are, they're going to collide in such way that your shot is going to happen. So all these things will come, the more experience you get. I mean, it took me years to even get a layered shot that I was happy with.
I think there is now one question to extension to what Sridhar asked is that you said that you click many images, and I think all of us do that in a way to get to our final shot that we like. Now, there are 2 things that attach to it. Has this success ratio or the hit ratio improved over a period of time with practice? Do you feel that now you shoot a little less as compared to earlier to get that elusive good shot? And second, is that do you get that feeling while clicking that now probably this shot that you clicked right now will be the shot that you are going to choose? Do you get that feeling sometimes in the field?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the more experience that you have, the more you can sense it in camera. You have that feeling that, okay, there's the scene, I smelt it, I'm going to start taking the shots. You work the scene, take it from the light, up, down, and then at some point, all the elements click, and I kind of know. So I will already, when I go back and look at my pictures on my laptop, I already kind of know that, okay, this is the shot, or it's around this area that I got the shot. So I'll already go there and check it out. Now, even though I do that, I'll still take more shots even after that, because you never know. You never know if you get something a little more after that. Now, in terms of hit ratio, I'd say I get more often a shot I'm happy with each outing that I do. But I shoot a lot. I still shoot a lot. I am a compulsive shooter. I work the scene, any scene that I find. Also, it takes me a lot of time to kind of get into the zone. So, if I go out and on a photo walk, I'll probably take 200-300 shots at the beginning just to even get into that zone where I start seeing things. So I still shoot a lot, but I come back home with shots I like a little more from these days.
That's interesting, and I think there's a couple of learnings here for everybody who's watching, including me also. Is that there's a difference between shooting more and random shooting. So while you also mentioned that you are still shooting on single shutter, you are not shooting like a machine gun, and you're not on continuous shoot mode. So you are still thinking and then clicking. You're still seeing the frame. It might not work, and then clicking. Am I right?
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
because this is the differentiator here, because you still know what you want to get, and unless that thing happens in front of you, you will probably not press the shutter button. So this is one good learning, and there is a related question for on YouTube by Rudra Singh. He's saying that earlier there was film photography, so people were not clicking too many images. They were slowing down primarily because of they were shooting on film and they needed to preserve their shots. But in digital era, everybody seems to be clicking more. Even those who came from film era are probably clicking more. So what is your thought? Should people slow down slightly? Or I don't know. So you are something.
I would be a horrible film shooter. I think I would probably be bankrupt after a week or two. No, I think it makes sense for each and every one of us to at least try that, to get that discipline of deciding when to really press the shutter, and telling yourself, okay, I have only 36 frames. Maybe I'll keep 2 rolls of film with me today. And this is all I'm going to do is take 72 shots. So, kind of you really slow down to the point where I'm only going to take 72 shots this time. But then for me, the other thought that also comes into my mind is that, I mean, today we have technology that allows us to do so much more. We have cameras that can go to ISO 4,000 or 5,000 with beautiful, which are still hardly any. There's still hardly any noise in them. Why should we prevent ourselves from using the technology that is available to us? It's part of the evolution of photography, and we should do it. After that, it's all about you take 1,000 shots in a day. Well, good luck going through 1,000 shots afterwards and selecting which ones you're gonna post or select finally. I think there are pros and cons in both approaches. Someday maybe I'll try, but for me it's really the digital process of taking tons of shots really is something that works for my own thought process and way of working.
I think you mentioned it right, and I think there's the answer for Rudra also, and many such people who have this kind of question in their mind. Use the technology, and why not? Why not use the technology when it is available? But it is important to still know what you're trying to shoot, and do not shoot aimlessly, do not shoot blindfolded. You still shoot with purpose. I think that is important. Yeah.
Shamuga? Yeah. So, came back from okay.
Suresh, just stopping. I have a few questions, but I'm waiting for you to end this so that you come to today's date. But one small question before that: you shoot in a single shot mode. Does it have anything to do with your flash, or it's just your decision?
No, it's just the way I shoot. There's nothing to do with flash. I've always shot single shot. I don't know. Just it's also about pressing the shutter at the right moment where, for example, the legs are in a V position. So it's all these little quirks that I have that, I want to get it without the camera helping me. I just get it when pressing the shutter.
Okay. One more question I had, just keeping the main questions for the end, but many of us have this characteristic that we don't make
the human expressions, our central theme in street shots. We are a sort of distant participant. We may go physically close, but we still look at the entire scene from a distance. We don't bring in, sort of, if you may call it, street portraiture in our street shots.
Yeah.
Any thought on that? That doesn't seem to be our focus, to capture human emotions and let it dominate the frame.
Well, I think, that's really interesting. For me, that is, and probably we'll come to that as we go closer to the end, but that's really the direction which I want to go. That's one of the elements that was kind of missing in my earlier shots.
Yeah, exactly. So I have another question, but I was waiting for the end, so let me hold it. You carry on. I'll ask it at the end.
So anyway, the next couple of small series for me is just to tell you for what happened after I came back from Singapore. So came back, I was very happy with the shots I took there, and then came back to Bombay, had to readjust to a life here. And then I started basically the next couple of years, so 2018, 2019, I was a bit in a transition period in my mind. So I was taking a lot of shots, a lot of street shots, but it was all single shots. There was no real aim in what I wanted to shoot. So yeah, the quirky moments, all these things were there, but somehow I was kind of missing, a kind of structure to my work. What is it that I wanted to show? So I'm last year, I had another surgery on my leg to get the screws and bolts out of my leg and become a human again from my cyborg days. And started relooking a bit at my work and see what were the themes that really appealed to me. And I realized that there were a couple of elements, a couple of strong elements that that were coming out. One was colors. So I realized that colors started becoming, was really one of the most important elements in my shows. I'll just share a few color shots.
Amazing, man. These are.
Sometimes it was single color, sometimes it was a bit more of a rainbow of colors. So that's something I've been working on. I'm trying to work on a complete rainbow series, which I don't know which form it's going to take in the long term, but something where really, color speaks to me a lot, and that comes back to growing up with my dad and his paintings, and the fact that we was in love with Disney cartoons. All these colors, they play an important part in my pictures. All these experiences. That was one. And another one was festivals. Do you have any questions before I move on?
I think you can go ahead. There is question, but I'll come later.
Yeah. The other element that really I started gravitating towards was festivals. So I realized that I love shooting festivals. I love the human connection that you get in these areas. I love people's faith and something that really I wanted to document, but in my own street style. So started going to festivals in Mumbai. I went to the Kumbh as well last year with Xtra. Just a few shots. Dahyandi in Mumbai. Chat Puja also in Mumbai.
Very different take on even the festival. So one thing was evident in last few images that you use flash.
Yes, yeah, I've been using flash.
This question I had asked Sriranj also in our previous session with Sriranj, and I think I'll want to repeat that question here. That what is your take on use of flash? So one thing is certain that you accept it. But what is the frequency and how do you decide? And is it a project-based thing or is it something that you would do it anytime that you feel like doing it?
On the streets, I tried to use flash. I mean, like for example, in these festival picture, I would use flash.
Yeah.
So that because it's night and I want to get still some action, some elements in focus and things like that. I find not using flash here kind of removes the dramatic element in the shot. I use flash also during the time, but it's fairly unobtrusive. I try as much as possible to be unobtrusive even with my flash. So even though I go close, I use the flash. Somehow I do it in such a way that the light doesn't hit them right in the eye. So it will be the side of the face or something. By the time they even turn around, I've already moved on. So it doesn't like blind them as much as possible. But I like using flash. I find, and you see in my last few images that I like how surreal the images become with flash. I like the sense of otherworldliness, for want of a better word. In these kind of festivals, like she said, it creates a different take on some of these festivals. So all these elements play a role for me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. There are a couple of questions from Enamul Kabir.
Sure.
Okay, and on YouTube. So first question is that for you, how important is content versus form in street photography? Do you think for you, one plays a stronger role than the other?
It's a question that I keep asking myself. I don't feel that I compose images very well. For me, composition is secondary. Content is what matters. And even though the image may be skewed, or there are some elements that that may not be 100% right from a compositional standpoint, if the content is strong enough, I'll keep the image. Obviously, the more you shoot, the better. And I mean, since we've all been shooting for years, so the compositional rules. How. I mean, what makes a good image purely from a design or visual perspective. So you apply that even unconsciously. But even if I miss that and somehow the content is really strong, unless the image is really impossible to use, I would probably still keep it at least.
To extend that question, he has asked the same thing to me as well. So I was just thinking on that, pondering my thoughts on that. As you said rightly, and the same which I also mentioned, the content is the king, and it's more important. But if you notice, like photographers like George A. Pinkershaw, for them the form is more important.
Absolutely.
For Harry Gray, the color is more important. When you say the content, for them the design is more important. So is it based on a particular scene that these I'm sure this thing varies, right? Do you think we can focus only on the content? Or
it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it depends from photographer to photographer. For say Harry Greer, the content is the color. So the content and the composition are both part of the same subject, if you will. For him, getting that hue of red or that yellow or that, you know, beautiful warm colors, that is content in a way.
Yeah, you rightly said, but you know, generalized view of a content is like emotions or story, and this is what the people have in their mind.
I think it really depends from photographer to photographer. You know, some of us will gravitate more towards really content that kind of goes with your personality. Some other will be like, you know, I don't necessarily want to show content, but the graphical elements on my picture, the deep shadows, the light, the lines, all these things actually are much more important than the actual content. And you know, if you take what's his name, Siegfried.
Yeah, the German guy.
Yeah, the German guy. It's exactly that.
Siegfried Hansen. Yeah.
Yeah, Siegfried Hansen. It's exactly that. I mean, it's all the design elements of the pictures which are more important for him. Human element is hardly visible there.
Just to add to this confusion of content, you know, you ask a photojournalist, the number of them who are, let's say, covering the COVID epidemic in Mumbai, if they look at our picture, they, even if we think there is a strong content, they will say, where is the content? The content for them is a completely different thing altogether. So it remains very subjective, what is content.
Right.
Yeah, that's the right answer. Very subjective.
Yeah. And there's another question from him only, Anamul Kabir, is that when you are out shooting, how much of it is instinctual versus planned?
Mostly instinctual. From the place where I decide to go to, you know, which gully I'm gonna take. It's all happenstance. I mean, I let myself open to the possibilities of the universe, if you will. But then after that, if I find something interesting, can be a shaft of light, can be a colorful wall, can be a character, then the planning, quote unquote, comes in. You stick around, you see, you do all the things that we've discussed earlier. You work the scene, etc. That's more planning. But for me, you know, when I go out and shoot in Bombay, I don't plan like I'm gonna go here to get this, and this is what I'm looking for, and I'm only gonna look for it. Okay.
All right. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're more or less coming to the last series. A couple more here. So another thing that I've started thinking over the last year or so, and which I find completely lacking in my Singapore shots. So while I loved my Singapore shots in 2017, when I look at them now, I feel that I've wasted an opportunity. In the sense that, if I didn't tell you it was Singapore, you wouldn't know it was Singapore. You wouldn't have necessarily guessed. It could have been, Taiwan, it could have been Hong Kong, it could have been any other place. There was something that was missing today that I really want to add in my Bombay work, is a sense of place. If you look at the work from some of the greatest street photographers out there, Raghuveer Singh, just to take an example, he was able to get the essence of a place and time. Any books that he has published?
Sorry, Suresh, I missed your last sentence. Which name did you take?
Raghuveer Singh.
Raghuveer Singh, okay.
If you take any of his books, his Bombay pictures or Kerala pictures, Tamil Nadu, whichever, you don't even need to look at the cover. You look at the pictures and you feel, it's Kerala, it's Tamil Nadu, it's Bombay. He's able to grasp what makes a place and then document it. So that's kind of the direction where I want to go with my own Bombay work. Kind of document the city, not the way a documentary photographer would do, which again for me is a much more narrow. You take a subject and then you go really deep into it and then document it. A street photographer, when he documents a place or a time, try to keep as wide as possible, so you're not necessarily going to go deep into A, B, C subject, but you're trying to grasp what makes the essence of a place. Which is something that I want to do with my Mumbai work. It's going to take years, and I really don't know how it's going to look after the COVID. But these are some of the shots I took over the last few years that I kind of see, that I kind of feel fit into this new narrative that I'm trying to construct.
Wow.
So I'm trying to shoot, as the problem is, a place like Bombay is so big. There's things happening everywhere. Flower markets, bazaars, there are beaches, there's monsoon season. I still don't know how it's gonna shape up. Eventually, I'd like it to be a book. Or at least an exhibition, but until then, I'm just taking pictures of pretty much everything that attracts me in the city. Couples, lack of space, taking monsoon again, how the city is really crumbling. So, any questions before I move on?
Yeah, I have a question since you mentioned about the book part. How do you decide that, okay, you're ready for a book? I mean, personally, like I've been shooting for almost 10 years now. So when I look back, I feel that I'm not yet ready. How do you decide? Like, is it based on the project that you completed? Or is it based on that you have completed, like you're okay to go ahead with the publishing of a book? You're prepared?
So don't get me wrong, I'm not ready with the book at all. I'm in the same situation as you are, but it's more that I want to shoot. I found a subject that I want to shoot, which is for me, Bombay, and I want it to eventually take a book form. Now, how is it gonna happen? When is it gonna happen? I don't think I'm there yet. If you remember in Ritesh's talk.
Yes, he mentioned 2016, then he got it done in 2018, which is about 4 years.
Yeah, and same. At some point, he felt it that, okay, I have what I need to make the book. So I think at some point, the more you shoot, the more you start sequencing your work, putting them together, the more at some point the idea of, the flow of the book starts coming together. So for me, I'm not even that first step. I think what you and you for your hometown project and me with Bombay is like already start maybe printing some small, some shots of your work, put them together, maybe have them put them on the wall, see if they speak to each other, see if there is a kind of flow, kind of narrative, a kind of story that forms, and then once you start doing that, I guess the gaps, you'll start noticing the gaps in your story, or the gaps in the pictures that are missing, and you're gonna add. Then you're gonna maybe seek them out. I don't know. That's at least what I want to do. I want to at least print maybe like the 50, 100, 200 shots, small 4x6, and then see if they already fit in some form of narrative.
So do you think a problem, this evolution part, evolving part, it would be a problem? Like we started in like 2010, and then we are into 2015, and now we're 2020. But by the time we reach now, we have evolved. Our thought process have evolved. So the images that we took before doesn't really, connect. Would that be a problem in our way of seeing also in selecting those images? What do you think? Just want to have your views.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I will select much more images from my last couple of years than from 2014, 2015.
Yes.
So, there might still be a few that you will get, but as your vision evolves, as the story evolves, these things start. I think you will discard more work from your past and then keep more work from now, and then shoot more, which will then make you discard the pictures from 2 years ago.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Suresh, I think this is a point to ask my question to you because it has a link to what Sriran was asking. See, in my experience, let me explain my same question in two different forms. First is, as an artist, the direction in which you evolve is determined by the difference between you as a human being and what your art has expressed so far. If there is a gap, you try to bridge the gap and move in a direction so that you are able to bridge the gap. So what do you think is missing in your work right now, which you want to bridge going forward? Now, let me rephrase the question in a different way. See, many of us actually started almost around the same time. And what some of us, at least I have noticed that, and there was a very similar question, I think, in Sriran's session on this platform, that if you look at the winners or finalists of all the competitions which happen every year, only a few people, a few pictures you can look at and say, this work belongs to that person. Rest all seem to be very similar.
Just give me a second. I'm missing a phone call. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Just 2 minutes. All right. Sorry. So can you just repeat the last part?
Okay, so I was referring to a question that came probably during Sriran's session on this platform, that somebody asked that, if you take the pictures of the finalists in all the competitions, major competitions, there is hardly anything to differentiate except a few people. You really can't say that this picture belongs to person X, Y, or Z. Now, in our own experience, probably you have seen the first phase of the life of a street photographer roughly lasts for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how much the guy is practicing. And we probably circulate within that well of similar looking pictures. And then we start to evolve and take different directions. Even within this Zoom room, you will see people have started taking directions, getting out of the well. So the same question, are you taking any particular direction? Is it driven by any incompleteness that you see in your own work, and what kind? My own experience that I have noticed you seem to be going deeper and deeper throughout, right from your sort of day one. Or you were probably the first amongst us who was courageous enough to start experimenting at a very early stage. Today, standing today, are you taking any different direction, or you're still going deeper and deeper? And do you see any incompleteness in your work which you are moving into, sort of bridge the gap?
Yeah. So I think it kind of boils down to what I was mentioning about the work that I did in Singapore and that I'm trying to do in Bombay today, which is that how do you go beyond just the quirky moments and the little humorous things and show give a sense of place and time. Really, that's where I want to take my work moving forward. I want eventually my work to be historical document. Seems a little presumptuous, but at least show in my own way what Bombay for me was in the late 2010s, early 2020s. Mm-hmm. So for that to happen, you need to go, I find, slightly beyond the visual puns, for want of a better word. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying with my own work, and it takes time and it takes effort to focus more on people, on their emotions, on let's use visual gimmicks, but while still keeping like the weirdness and quirkiness that you can get. But yeah, showing really how Bombay looks in those days.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Suresh. Lovely talk. It was really nice listening to the. Am I audible?
Yeah.
It was really nice, hearing your journey from where you started, and just like how Aniruddha asked a question. Just to continue the same question. Like I really like your latter. Like it's very subjective, as you said. How it is to each his own. The photographer is to himself. Like all your shots of Singapore and other places that you mentioned are really nice, but these photographs, these images that you're making now, maybe it's a journey that you're crossing or you've crossed from the book that started it to now, which is giving the sense of place. I thought these images speak a lot about you and about the person that you've become in the last 4, 5, 6 odd years. Which is especially the couples in the whole semicircle, from that to the sweepers to all the things that are giving you, or from the Muhammad Ali Road, so that is the beauty, which I thought is a very good trajectory, and cheers on that. And yeah,
thanks. Yeah. So I mean, let's hope I'll continue in that direction. But yeah, this is really what I want to do. So quickly, so another, for me, one quick shout out and that I wanted to make here, because half of the panelists are part of some of the collectives that I'm part of. But for me, it was important to mention this as part of my journey. So the 2 collectives I'm part of in Street, which pretty much all of you know, I'm sure, the audience. For me, a very important part of my journey, because here was a group of individuals with whom I could share a passion and also really discuss ideas about photography in a much deeper sense. It's something that I was already doing with Sriranj a lot. But here it was, it's lovely to have a group of individuals where we're pretty much, in the same wavelength, same thought process, and kind of discussing ideas together. And so, yeah, just wanted to mention how important this has been, Street has been in my journey. We've done some projects together. The film project last year was one. Stay tuned for another one that's going to come soon, a long-term project. Another collective that I'm part of that really is also very important for me. And you can recognize a couple of people, Satak and Nasser, our collective members. here again, I mean, very, very important for me. And I wanted to quickly mention it. What Bombay, what we want to do with this collective is really creating a sense of community with photography in Bombay. So, you know, while photography is really a solo endeavor in the sense that, you know, it's always better. We usually get our best shots when we go shoot at all. And while online communities and all that are great, for me, really what I want to do, and all these people in this picture share the same idea. That's why we joined forces, was to really bring photography back into a more physical and social, through walks that we do together, to documenting the city, each with our own eye, and hopefully eventually do joint exhibitions. Obviously, COVID has put a bit of a downer to this, but yeah, this is something that I really hope that we can move forward with in later part of 2020, 2021, and all the years ahead. All right, so just last few images now. I don't have much to say about this, but basically, this is kind of the culmination of my the current state of my journey as is. So 2020, so the Bombay Collective was created late 2019 at John Lynn Street, early 2019. And after much deliberation, I decided to quit my corporate job end of last year. End of Jan was my last day at work, trying to see if I can pursue photography full time and what will happen from there. It's already given me freedom to shoot much more. So these are some of the images I've taken over the last 3 months. It's a bit of a culmination of everything. So shoot pictures everywhere, color work, and try to give a sense of place. I've been shooting festivals also a little more, Tamilian festivals. So I'm also a bit going to my, going back to my roots. And well, obviously, I mean, this had to be, I had to stop this journey in the outside. Chiru and I, my partner and I, we were traveling in Kerala. We actually were with Sri when the pandemic started becoming much more serious in India. There were a couple of really bad experiences in Kerala, so we had to rush back to Bombay. And over the last more than 2 months, we've been at home. So yeah, originally, so these are shots that I've been taking of my muse, the only subject I can really shoot, my partner. And just wanted to say that as the weeks went on, my pictures also started changing slightly. These are just some shots of shows. Slowly, my narrative is turning into a ghost horror story. And that's it.
Oh, great. Great journey.
Great. It is. We are watching these kinds of images, looking at these kinds of images that he's posting every day.
Yeah.
And amazing.
So, Suresh, a few questions we all might be having, and I have one more to add to my continuous barrage of questions. You said, I mean, I also quit my corporate life and we are into photography now. But in your case, you're still young and you quit your full-time job to get into photography. Like many youngsters, as you know, we are meeting quite students. They want to get into photography very soon, quit their jobs. What is your advice to these youngsters who want to get into photography and quitting the job and getting into photography? What are the things that is required, like a foundation?
So one, get your photography foundation solid. Don't quit while you're learning. Get yourself already to a point where your pictures, are starting to be good before you take that plunge. Two, I mean, it's not like, I also saved up for years before I took that jump. Don't do that jump. Don't take that jump. Without at least having a little financial parachute. With you, I don't have any debts, so I don't have to pay any money. So I took also decisions, life decisions that allowed me to take that jump. I think anyway we need more artists in this world. Art is probably one thing that will save this world. But make sure that you jump after you've really considered all the elements. Make sure that your lifestyle matches the new salary that you're going to get. Don't go to a restaurant every day if you're not earning anything anymore, right? So you need to take all these decisions into consideration before you take the chance, right?
But end of the day, is a solid body of work that we make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, don't do it after 6 months. You've taken 2-3 good shots and that's it. I think you can go ahead and quit. Work. Shoot. Create that body of work. Create the thing that then you can use as your visiting card.
It's a good point.
Good advice. Very good advice.
Any more questions?
There are a couple of questions on YouTube as well. Plus, I have one. So, one I'll ask from Indrajit. He's asked that. I think it is. Yeah. So Indrajit's question is very, very relevant question. Is that what do you think about the way we have been shooting so far? This Indian ecosystem, given the possibilities here and what Raghuveer Singh and Raghu Rai have already shot, how can we do it better?
It's an important question. I honestly is something I'm still grappling with a lot. They have created such a strong body of work and such strong visual language. How can you show it in a different way? To me, still, there is something that you can show, irrespective of the visual language. It's just that we're shooting a different era. We were saying, Raghu Rai, they shot these cities and created books 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Cities have completely changed compared to them. So even if visually we might use the same tools, the subject that the subject matter that we're shooting is different, and deserves to be shot and to be showcased. Now, on the visual language and how we can do something more, I think it really comes with with more practice, more shooting, eventually you will start seeing that, okay, maybe there are some different elements that jump up in your pictures that look slightly different from the way they were shooting. I don't really have an answer for that right now. It's something that goes in the back of my mind, and as I take more pictures, my own visual language kind of changes. So yeah, we'll see where it leads us.
I think it's about as an individual artist where we have set a platform, like maybe 20 years down the line, people would like to see India or Bombay through Suresh's eye. Like we have different photographers who've done Cuba, but why we buy all the books of Cuba by like Alex Webb or David and Harvey? Because I think it's the vision that we want to see the particular place through a certain photographer's perspective, how he has taken, maybe, if I'm right.
I think what Shirin, you're saying is right. If I put it in my own words and my own thoughts, is that do we really need to improve somebody's work? Is that the objective? They have created what they've created in their own time.
I don't think so.
Iconic. And I think in times to come, people like you and everybody on this panel will create their own body of work, and that will be recognized. And probably somebody else would be asking in another talk show that how can we better the work done by Suresh and Sriranj and all these wonderful panelists here. I think that is going to be the biggest answer to these kinds of questions. I think that is the way I think, because
exactly, absolutely,
I agree. I think eventually, it boils down to what you were saying earlier. It's like you need to put more of yourself in your pictures. The more you look at pictures of everybody, but that's kind of to get inspired by them. But then eventually, as you improve, as you gain more experience, more and more of yourself, the elements of interest that you have, all the the things that make you will go into the pictures, and then the images will look like yours.
Yeah. I have one question that's been going in my mind from quite a long time through this presentation, is that as a photographer, you work hard to develop your vision, and you after some time realize that yes, now you have that knack and ability to visualize certain scenes, and as you put it in your own words, that you smell the scene and then you try and create. Do you think that after you do that, after you reach that level, you get entrapped in that vision, box vision itself, and it is difficult to break that mold that you get into, and your next set of images that you create henceforth all look alike, nothing wrong in it? Probably that's what people call your signature style. But do you think that they all look similar in a way? The vision gets box vision kind of a thing. And if so, is it important to stay in there, or is it important to break away from that? And if that is the answer, then how do we do that?
Yeah, so it's always the I'd say the blessing and the curse of having a signature, right? You have a signature, that means that you people will recognize your image. But if people recognize your image, it means that they tend to look alike. How do you break from it? I mean, or do you break from it? I try to do something slightly. I mean, to me, I shoot the streets, so every scene is slightly different. Like I've mentioned a few times in this talk, I try to give more of a sense of place now, so less these quirky moments, but give a bit more like the background, the landscapes, if you will, in which the humans are. So we keep trying to evolve, but at the same time, I think you have a vision that you like, and going deeper and trying to refine that eye until you get the shots that have that essence of you is also important. So I think you need to balance it a bit, take shots that kind of carry on in the vision or the box that you use, and keep seeing if you can get more from it. But at the same time, keep experimenting. I experiment with flash. I experiment by going a little further now, not going as close. Trying to get more human emotions, the eye contacts, things like that. Let's be a fly on the wall. While visually, some elements will always remain. That's the issue. I mean, I don't think there's right or wrong answers. It really depends. I think over a period of time, also maybe you yourself will get bored if you keep shooting the same way, and get the same type of shots. So then you try to evolve. Sri did that. Mine is not as drastic as him. I didn't go from square black and white to flash, for example, but I try to add more elements in my own shots. Till flash, I try to get more subjects that interest me, things like that.
Thank you. That's a wonderful answer. I think. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, panelists, from the YouTube or?
YouTube, there is one last question has come from Moshmi. I think that after that we are already short past the time. Can someone do a commendable body of work without even going through any of these books we talk about often? Will that also be called good street photographs, devoid the obvious reflections of those artists, and how would you judge them, as it will carry a new language in that genre?
It's a good question.
It's a good question. I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure that there are people who are trailblazers and that have, they are able to. They're basically prodigies. They sense. They have a very clear vision, inner vision, for want of a better word, and then they put that into the images, and then from there create a body of work. The same way that Beethoven or Mozart did that with classical music. So I'm sure it's possible. But I don't think it's the norm. I think we still need to know what has come before you. I think it's important to know what has come before you, what is your contemporary work. For me, at least, I need that to also. One, because I really love looking at pictures. It just something I enjoy doing. So looking at other people's work, the same way that maybe a pianist will look at older compositions or listen to older compositions, because that's something that they enjoy. But after that, you need to eventually let go of that baggage and try to create your own body of work, which will be poles apart. But that's the hardest thing to do. I don't even know where to start there. How do I even get rid of the thousands of images that are there in the back of my mind?
That's the most difficult part.
I don't know if anybody has any views there.
Put the session to hear it from you, man. We're all searching for this answer.
Yeah, we are all searching for this elusive answer. And on a lighter note, last thing, what Kabir has asked, you have a huge collection of books, and what is your favorite book out of that?
I can't name one book. So I'll name three.
All right.
The Suffering of Light by Alex Webb. It was one of the first books that I bought, and I poured through it for so long, and so many images really appealed to me. That's one. Two Earthlings by Richard Calvar, because it was probably the first time that I realized that human being, that there's a way to capture the real strangeness and weirdness of human beings, something that I try to do in my work. Nowhere close to his level, but I try to always look a little bit at that. Really changed my way of seeing. And third, The Mennonites by Larry Towell. To me, in terms of feel, emotions, I've rarely seen a book as strong as that. It's very hard to find a cheap copy of it, but if you can check out images online, I mean, this is one book, and that kind of brings it back to Kabir's original question, which is content versus form, which is it. That book is at the top of the game on both. That's a masterclass in where the content is so strong, but it's even lifted with some of the strongest composition I've ever seen. Highly recommend it.
All right. So how about giving rest of the books to us?
No, it's already booked. It's already booked. It'll come through me.
because on YouTube there's a conspiracy going on. Kabir, Jayati, and myself are planning a book feast at your place. We are going to rob your house.
Oh, well, come, most welcome. First, come here, and then we'll talk about the books.
But they'll be put in 14 days quarantine.
Exactly.
Coming from Calcutta.
Put us on 28 days quarantine. No. 14 days per book quarantine. It's acceptable. We finish that book in 14 days. And next 14 days, new book.
So shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
I think I talked a lot. Sorry if I talked too much.
No. It was a fantastic experience. Yeah.
Such an interesting session that we just wish that it just could go on and on, I think.
So this is the beauty of such talks, man. We get involved in their journey, in the images. We just don't know 2 hours have really gone by,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just, before I hand over to Jesse, Suresh, thank you very much. Even though I know you for all these years, we are good friends, but all these images and the talk you did went back to all those previous years we met, and it was like reliving through all those memories we did. It was fantastic seeing you grow all these years, and I'm sure that you are the person who's going to leave a mark here, I'm sure, with your work that you're going to produce.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, everybody, all the panelists. So I'll leave to you, Jesse.
Thank you, Sriranj. Thank you, Suresh. I think thank you, Sriranj, specifically because if it was not for you, we would not have been. It would not have been possible for us to listen to Suresh. And I think everybody should thank Sriranj and Suresh in particular. And thank you for accepting the invite. Thank you, Sriranj, for putting this entire thing together. The entire set of panelists are wonderful. Thank you, Sarthak ji. Thank you, Aniruddha ji. Thank you, Nasar ji. And thank you, such elite photographers on YouTube as well, Kabir and Inderjeet and Moshmi and Jayati, and everybody's there and trying to plan.
Thank you so much.
So before we say goodbye, just thumbs up, everybody, like this, so that I can click the screenshot at least. Yeah, guys, smile and thumbs up. Anguthe dikhao sab apne apne. All right. Okay. And it was really a great session. We have overshot, and I think everybody needs to go now. So, bye. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye.